For the first minute, let's address a problem every woodworker, homesteader and craftsman faces sooner or later. Moisture creeps into timber, fungus takes hold, and before long the strongest beam or post becomes soft, hollow and, well, useless. Modern builders constantly fight this battle with chemical sealants, pressure treating and coatings that need refreshing every single year. Yet medieval carpenters, working with nothing more than hand tools, natural materials and a deep understanding of their environment, developed a rot-stopping technique that kept timber functional for generations. Buildings that should have collapsed in a century are still standing today with original beams intact. Archaeologists continue to examine structures from the Middle Ages and find wood preserved far beyond its expected lifespan. This wasn't luck. It was technique, and it remains shockingly effective today, even though most modern builders rarely use it. In this guide, you'll learn exactly how medieval craftsmen kept rot at bay, and how you can apply this method to your own woodworking with reliable, long-term results. Medieval carpenters relied on heat-treating wood to drive out moisture and lock in durability. The core of the method was controlled heat treatment, often called thermal modification today, but, the process is much older than its modern name. Medieval workers discovered that heating timber to specific temperatures transformed the wood at a cellular level. This wasn't charring. It wasn't burning, it was a slow, intentional bake that evaporated bound water from deep within the fibres and altered the wood's chemistry so fungi and microbes could no longer use it as food. When the wood reached this thermally modified state, it became dimensionally stable, less absorbent, and naturally resistant to both rot and insects. This is why many medieval grain barns, bridge beams and weapon shafts have survived centuries of damp European climates. Heat-treated wood gained an almost stone-like resistance without losing its strength. The technique demanded patience, attention, and an understanding of how different species reacted to heat, but once mastered, the results were, honestly, astonishing. The process required maintaining steady heat over long periods rather than burning the exterior. Medieval builders typically used earth kilns, pit kilns, or enclosed masonry chambers where heat could rise gently and consistently. They knew high temperatures would crack or warp wood, so they kept fires smouldering rather than blazing. The goal was to bring wood to a point where moisture evaporated, but cellulose and lignin remained intact. Most medieval craftsmen aim for a range that we now know sits between 160 and 220 degrees Celsius, depending on the wood species. You can reproduce this today using a modern kiln, an improvised smokehouse, or even a large metal drum with a controlled fire beneath it. The key is gradual heating. If you're treating beams or posts, the wood must reach temperature slowly and remain there for several hours. Smaller pieces like tool handles or wooden pegs require far less time. When done correctly, the wood darkens slightly, gains a pleasant resinous smell, and becomes far more resistant to moisture uptake. Heat-treated wood resisted rot because the process removed the sugars fungi feed on. The brilliance of this medieval technique lies in its simplicity. Rot cannot start without available moisture and food. Heat treating removes both. By driving out bound water, the wood becomes far less able to absorb moisture again. By altering the internal sugars, fungi and insects no longer recognize the timber as nutritious. This is why thermally modified wood today is still marketed as rot-proof without chemicals. Medieval craftsmen achieved the same results using only fire, enclosure and experience. If you have fence posts rotting at the base, raised bed frames decaying after a season, or tool handles weakening from humidity, this technique is a game changer. Heat-treating small pieces can be done at home using a propane torch held at a distance or a charcoal bed that surrounds the wood without touching it directly. The wood should warm deeply, not scorch. For posts or outdoor beams, using a contained heat source produces the best results. The method worked for structural beams, tools, building posts, and any timber exposed to moisture. Documents from medieval guilds describe heat-treated timber used in everything from bridge supports to wagon axles. Scandinavian builders used it for staves. Germanic carpenters used it for water-exposed beams. English builders used it for barn frames and doorposts. The range of applications was wide because the method fit almost any task where longevity mattered. If you want to apply this technique today, start with a small project such as a garden tool handle. Slowly heat the handle over a gentle bed of coals while rotating it. Once it develops a uniform toasted colour and a slight sheen from natural resins, oil it thoroughly and let it cool. For something larger, like a raised bed frame or gate post, build a small heat chamber with bricks or metal sheeting and place smouldering coals at the base. Allow heat to rise slowly around the wood for several hours. Once cooled and oiled, the wood will resist rot for many years, even without modern chemicals. This method's decline had nothing to do with inefficiency or failure. It disappeared because industrial lumber processing valued speed over longevity. Soaking boards in chemical preservatives was faster. Pressure treating scaled easily. Factory coatings produced quick visual results. But none of these industrial methods equal the breathability, stability, and natural rot resistance produced by thermal modification. As modern builders return to traditional methods, this technique is gaining attention again. Those who use it quickly understand why medieval carpenters trusted it for their most important structures. Medieval heat treating wasn't superstition or luck. It was deliberate engineering that transformed wood into a rot-resistant material capable of surviving harsh climates and heavy use. If you care about longevity, craftsmanship, and historically proven techniques, this method deserves a place in your toolkit. It's practical, repeatable, and remarkably effective. For more deep dives into ancient engineering, forgotten craftsmanship, and survival-grade building tricks, make sure you subscribe to Thermal Vault and share this video so others can rediscover these lost techniques.